Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more fictional characters.
We can't do the podcast tonight. Dan and Colin are trapped in a cabin under 100 feet of snow.
What? What the hell are they doing there?
I don't know. Something about a fire drill and a teamwork exercise. Next thing you know, they're up on Mount Useful causing avalanches with champagne glasses.
Well, are they okay?
No! They're going crazy! Just like me! They're building snowmen, and then they're giving the snowmen their clothes. Dan thinks Colin is planning to kill him. Colin thinks Dan is planning to kill him, and they're both convinced to strike first before the other has a chance.
Wait. Colin and Dan are about to engage in a no-holds-barred fight to the death? Which Mulkerin brother will triumph and save himself from an icy grave?
I don't know! That's why you and I are the impartial judges this week.
Representing Team Colin are Dan Mulkerin.
They invented time travel.
And Kit Mulkerin.
I actually didn't come up with anything. But
I guess
that's kind of appropriate.
Wow. April Fools, ladies and gentlemen. April Fools. And representing Team Dan are Colin Mulkerin.
The coolest of all Mulkerin brothers is Danger Mulkerin. They call him Dan for short.
If only.
And once again, returning to Smash Fiction's special guest to round out this Mulkerin-based episode, it's Tim Mulkerin.
That lame middle brother doesn't stand a chance. You better start calling the morgue now.
To see who goes first, Liz and I held a contest to see who could devise the best April Fool's Day prank. Team Dan successfully ruined an entire box of jelly donuts by taking out the jelly and replacing it with sriracha.
Oh, God.
But Team Colin hacked the websites of every major online news site and convinced the internet masses that Donald Trump had been declared the early victor of the United States presidential election and had already nominated Hulk Hogan to the Supreme Court. So they'll be going first. Seriously, guys, I'm going to be having nightmares for the rest of the month. Team Colin, you have the floor.
Oh, let me get my timer.
Oh, yeah. Timer.
This shit is on lock, okay? So
Is it strange that our April Fool's episode is like way tighter than our normal episode?
Strictly controlled, damn it. Strictly controlled.
all right,
This is the crazy one.
on your mark, get set, go!
For too long has Colin labored under the tyranny of his big brother. Dan got to vote before Colin did. Dan got to drink before Colin did. Dan got to rent a car before Colin did. And why? Because he's older? How is that fair? Colin's been stewing on some epic level rage, and he's bringing all of that to this match today. Now, speaking of the age difference, here's the thing about Dan. He's old. Really, really old. Colin is still in the prime of his youth. Those 3 years between them have visited the wrath of time itself upon Dan. But Colin has yet to have his youthful energy sapped from him. After a certain point, age doesn't make you stronger or faster, it just makes you older. Colin's victory becomes imminent once you examine how the two perform on this very podcast. As we've all seen, Dan loves making lists. This habitual list making is like an anime when a character keeps charging up a big attack or going through a complex transformation sequence. It's really intricate, but it really only works if the other side is patient enough to let you do it. What Dan thinks will be a big, impressive finisher will just be a big target for Colin. Dan likes to plan and prepare. He does tons of research, he thinks about what sorts of points his opponents might make, and he doesn't stop until he's sure he's ready. Colin, on the other hand, often forgets entirely about the match and has to scramble at the last minute to put an argument together. You might think this would be a point in Dan's favor, but I would argue that the ability to improvise and deal with the unexpected is a much better trait to have in a fight, while Dan's obsessive need to be prepared will leave him scrambling and defenseless the second Colin does something he doesn't expect.
Another Colin trait we frequently hear on the show is his god-level talking speed. How does that help him in a fight, you may wonder? Well, it's been proven in very scientific science studies that the speed in which someone can speak is directly proportional to the speed in which someone can punch a fool. You know E. Honda from Street Fighter? He ain't got nothing on C. Mulkerin. Now, a flurry of blows is great, but Colin has yet another superpowered advantage over his brother. Dan continues to cut his hair short, despite my wishes. Colin, however, allows his hair to grow long, thus granting him Samson-like strength. If Dan just grew his hair out like I want, maybe he wouldn't get the shit kicked out of himself. While I'm on this topic, another way that Dan sucks is that he is so obsessed with D&D that it literally takes up a minimum of 51% of his brain's processing power at any given time. Like a computer with way too many porn sites and pop-ups open at once. Dan's reaction time in combat is horrendously slow. He'll be too busy coming up with the perfect D&D reference to even notice that Colin has already beaten the crap out of him. No amount of critical hits is going to win this match for Dan. Colin is just too high level.
Okay.
Just under time. Perfect.
Boom. Woo. Team Dan. You gonna take that shit?
Okay, this debate is very simple. Everyone knows that in every family, there's a clear chain of command, like in the military or Destiny's Child. Clearly, Colin is the Michelle to Dan's Beyonce. Everyone who has siblings knows that since Dan is older than Colin, that means Dan is the de facto winner in any situation, be it over who gets to sit in the front seat, who gets to use the TV, or who wins in a grisly fight to the death. We can break it down further than that, though. Physically, Dan is taller and slimmer than Colin. Colin is the Igor to Dan's Dr. Frankenstein. One of Colin's most notable physical attributes is his long hair, which, in physical altercation, would be a liability. Not only is it ripe for pulling and grabbing, but it would act as a severe hindrance to Colin's peripheral vision. Since Dan is so much slimmer and quicker, he will undoubtedly be darting and dashing around Colin, and he will be unable to track his movements quick enough with his loose tresses getting in the way. Dan has a much more aerodynamic hairstyle with a nice, slickly gelled look to it that won't get in the way and which facilitates quick movements through space. If you've spent any time around Colin, you'll know that he has an almost pathological attachment to his leather jacket, regularly wearing it on even the most sweltering of Tucson days. This extra weight will slow his movements and make him much likelier to overheat, meaning that Dan will outlast his opponent simply because Colin is likely to tire himself out on his own. Lastly, lest we forget, Dan is a professionally trained thespian. With that title comes years of stage combat training, giving Dan a precise physical awareness of his body and that of his opponents, granting him the agility of a jungle cat. He also has an absurdly large collection of swords, giving him a full arsenal to use against Colin. All Colin has are a bunch of random art supplies, far too many half-full sketchbooks, and laundry that I somehow always end up putting away for him. He's toast.
There are a lot of stories written about firstborn sons. There are also a lot of stories written about the youngest of three brothers. How many epic tales are there about middle brothers? Pretty much none. Colin Mulkerin is the Fredo Corleone of his family, and he will be the pig who made his house of sticks in this story, forgotten by time in favor of his more interesting brothers. Dan is older than Colin, more experienced, and has been a looming presence in Colin's life for as long as he can remember. Colin has spent his entire life comparing himself to Dan and finding himself wanting. Whether it was in sports or Super Smash Bros., Dan has been kicking Colin's butt for as long as Colin has had a butt to kick. This matchup will be no different. Let's compare the mental states of our two combatants. Dan is a stable, sane human being. He has a grown-up, real-person job, and he has a wonderful wife named Kit. Colin is barely holding on to his sanity. He is perpetually alone, and he currently has two pretend jobs, delivering pizzas and hosting Monday night karaoke at a sad Tucson bar. I ask you, which of these two men has more to live for? Dan is a grown-up. He has survived living on the mean streets of Los Angeles and New York City. He has survived being trapped in an apartment without power during Hurricane Sandy. He is still surviving being married to Kit. Colin is lazy. The room that he is recording this podcast in is a mess. The computer that he is recording this podcast on is a wasteland of half-finished screenplays, illustrations, and RPG Maker games. Like all his endeavors, Colin will most likely start off this fight with a great amount of focus and zeal, but after a little while, his mind will wander to other things. His enthusiasm and confidence in the project will run out, and he just won't have enough focus and determination to finish things off properly. Let's take a look at one of Dan's projects. Oh wait, we are right now. It's a podcast called Smash Fiction. It was Dan's idea. If Colin tried to make a podcast, it would last maybe 3 episodes before he abandoned it. Oh wait, Colin did record a few episodes of a podcast, but he never even worked up the energy to release a single episode. The files are just sitting on the wasteland of unfinished projects that is his computer, the way that Colin's lifeless corpse will be sitting on a snowy mountainside by the end of this match.
Time. Hold on. I'm lighting a candle for Colin Mulkerin.
Colin, I think that's the saddest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
This is a comedy.
Moving right along. Rebuttal.
But I will say, hold on, I will say that you got yourself a yellow card there, buddy.
How did I do that?
This was not all Dan's idea. It was also mine. I want my contribution acknowledged. Dan, tell us.
Okay,
Mine. It's also Liz.
You're gonna cost
also
us this
mine.
match.
Thank you.
It was not my idea. I was not the driving force.
All right. Rebuttals, guys.
Rebuttals.
Man, where to begin? You guys talked about Colin's relative lack of size compared to Dan as being an advantage. I don't see that as an advantage. Like, you imagine Dan with his like long, awkward limbs lumbering around after Colin, and Colin's going to be able to like dive under tables, go through low doorways. Dan is going to be so unmaneuverable because of his terrible size that Colin's going to be zipping around him, like shanking him in the ankles like Wander from Shadow of the Colossus.
It might be true that Colin is shorter, but he's also a little bit wider. I mean, he's got some love handles. I don't know how many tables he can fit under relative to Dan, who's, thinner frame, could probably squeeze through a lot more, doorways and under things.
Yeah, but he's like gangly, like a fucking daddy long legs. That's just like his long ass legs are gonna get caught in something.
Another thing, like you guys mentioned Dan's hair being more aerodynamic than Colin's. Have you seen what happens the second Dan's hair gets messed up, or more importantly, the second that Dan thinks his hair has gotten messed up? Like, that's his world. That is his world. He won't be able to fight because he'll be too busy trying to find his reflection to make sure that there's no hair out of place.
Yeah, he doesn't even let me touch his hair.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I think that just shows an attention to detail that's going to be really important here.
It shows an obsession that is going to lose him this fight.
One other thing, like you guys mentioned Dan's proficiency in stage combat. Do you know what stage combat is? It's pretending to hurt someone, but making 100% sure that you don't hurt someone. And all of those swords that Dan has...
Professional wrestling?
Yes!
And all those swords that Dan has, not a one of them is good in combat. And also, not a one of them is a sword that Dan was actually trained to use. So,
Well, I mean, I'm sure if you know how to not hurt somebody, you just stop doing the things that you're supposed to not do. And then you hurt them, right?
Yeah, like I will say my sword is actually combat ready, but I'm not going to let him fucking use it because he won't grow out his goddamn hair. Dan, grow out your hair.
Team Dan, rebuttal.
So you mentioned that Colin's speed talking would be an advantage somehow, but to me it just conveys a sense of like franticness on Colin's part. He's not going to be able to think clearly. His mind's going in a million different directions. I think he's going to have a really hard time focusing and doing the job in front of him. He's all over the place.
Yeah, but I think that makes him harder to predict as well, and harder to react to because he acts so quickly. He literally acts before he knows what he's doing. How is Dan supposed to anticipate that? Like, how is he even supposed to keep up with that level of speed?
Oh, you want to talk about Dan's reaction time, do you? I have an interesting story to bring up that I think Dan knows what it's going to be.
Oh, no!
Oh, no!
Once, on a darkened highway road in the middle of the night, Dan was driving his car and he came upon a deer in the middle of the lane that he was on. He only had seconds to react. So what did he do? He turned the wheel of his car hard to try to avoid the deer in the middle of the road, and he started to go around it, only to find that in the next lane over, there was another deer. And he was about to hit the second deer, so Dan had to then correct from that overcorrection and drive his car in the narrow space between two deer on an otherwise abandoned highway. And he was able to pull this off. So I'm just saying, you want to talk reaction time.
I thought we agreed we weren't going to use the movie. I thought we were only sticking to the original source material.
Another thing about being an actor that Dan gets is not just stage combat skills, but acting skills. Dan has an incredibly good poker face and an ability to manipulate people. This can be seen most clearly when they are running role-playing games. When Dan is running a role-playing game, Colin is unable to see what is going on in Dan's head. It is just like a wall of stone looking in those cold eyes. And Dan never gives anything away. When Colin asks questions about what's going on in the plot, what it means, Dan he remains firm. He doesn't give anything away. But Colin is just a mess, and his plots are disorganized and all over the place, and Dan is able to see all of his plot twists coming from a mile away, and just Colin has no ability to feint or do anything. So I feel like this would translate over to a fight pretty directly.
Well, if Dan was behind the wheel of a car or behind a GM screen, maybe he would have an advantage. But that's not what this is. Those skills are not.
This is essentially like a The Shining situation where mind games are at play, paranoias are at play. Dan's ability to act and manipulate Colin are going to come into play. He's going to be able to get him into a corner, get him where he wants him, and finish the job.
I see. Here's the thing. Like
20 seconds.
You guys are talking about Dan's acting skills. What about Colin's sculpture skills? Like he has been a study of three-dimensional objects. I think he has a much greater degree of spatial awareness
What is he
than
going
Dan
to do?
could
Make snowballs?
Look, he's going to be
We're
able to look
showing.
in the room and immediately know, like, all the places that he can go to hide. He's going to know exactly how to maneuver his way through the room. Dan will be thinking about, like, I don't know, motivation or some crap or whatever it is that actors think about.
I mean,
All right,
I might have
point.
knowledge of perspective, but when it comes to three-dimensional stuff, like, I mean, if you take a look at all of the terrible things I made in, like, the one ceramics class, I made just, like, lumpy coil pots that were, like, falling over and exploding
Yeah, have you
in the
seen his
kiln.
pinch pots? They're not pretty.
All right, done.
All right, Team Colin, please stick to the third person when referencing yourself, sir. Thank you.
That would be,
Got a
that
little
would be
lost there.
I'm
that would
sorry,
be
Team
Dan,
Dan.
actually.
Team Dan, please, Colin,
This is so
refer to
confusing.
yourself in the third person. Oh man, oh, look at them going at each other. It's like they think one another is food,
Oh,
like
I love
turkey
it.
legs. or something. Oh, it's actually. I was really worried at the beginning, Liz, but now it's just kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's gonna get even better because
Oh,
there's
really?
a storm coming in.
Oh no!
Lightning round! Lightning round!
Who could have predicted this?
Oh my god! So, welcome to the first ever Lightning Fast Lightning Round, where I will be asking the contestants lightning fast questions where they must respond with lightning fast answers.
Oh, God.
Do you understand?
If you didn't think, dear listeners and dear co-host, that I wasn't turning this portion of the program over to Liz, I don't know what's wrong in your brain.
Oh no.
So, for this special occasion, I've come up with a very, very, very strange lightning round. It is in a very strange format. So you need to say your whatever pops into your head as fast as possible, okay? If you lag, I will reach through my microphone and hit you. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Okay, number 1. What is your favorite animal?
I'm sorry,
Dragon.
Liz. I'm sorry, Liz, real quick. So when you say what is your favorite animal, you're saying to me what is Colin's favorite animal? Or are you saying to... Okay, all right.
Dragon.
Penguin.
What are your 2 best skills?
Art and writing.
Acting and being organized.
What is your favorite kitchen implement?
Blender.
One of those things that you use to mash potatoes, like the little...
A
little-
potato masher?
Yeah, that's the one.
All right.
What is your favorite tool? You can't say penis.
Ah, that was literally... monkey wrench.
Bandsaw.
I do love me a good bandsaw, I'm not gonna lie.
The other one I was going to say was Principal Strickland. But
What is the prettiest, shiniest thing you want to own?
A really cool car.
a jetpack.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Okay, roll your d20.
7.
14.
Team Colin, you now own 7 cars. And Team Dan, you now own 14 jetpacks.
Sweet.
Okay, so, you know, guys, this is a podcast where we take really awesome fictional characters we love and we make them fight against each other. Well, congratulations. You've just made the skills and traits of your alter ego superhero for this most lightning of lightning rounds. Please think of a name for your superhero right now.
Oh,
Do we
boy.
have a dragon, or are we a dragon? Or...
Are we a penguin? That's fucking sick.
Incorporate it how you see fit.
Okay.
This is a loose form lightning round.
I don't know if a dragon needs 14 jetpacks.
You don't necessarily need to be your animal. It could be like, I don't know, your symbol, whatever.
No, we're obviously gonna be a dragon.
I mean, if you want to strap
Oh no, I got
14
something. I think I got
to your
something.
dragon. Now, we move on to the actual fighting questions, where I'm going to ask you, or give you scenarios, and you're going to tell me how your dude is going to take care of it. But give me your names if you've thought of them.
I think we might be the Dragon Lord Dan Hammett.
This is slightly ripping off a very old Nickelodeon sketch, but the name of the character is Coldfinger.
I'm going to ask you questions with scenarios, and you're going to tell me how your superhero will deal with them. Number 1, how would you stop a group of thugs? Team Dan.
You know, Dragon Lord Dan Hammett, his greatest skills are acting and being organized. So he has actually created a youth outreach program that he is going to use, and he'll use his acting skills to persuade the thugs to set aside their thuggish ways and join this youth outreach program and this like great nonprofit organization that he has used his amazing organizational skills to organize. And so, yeah, he is going to just start solving crime top down by solving it at its root and not actually have to hurt anyone.
I like that.
Okay, Team Colin.
Coldfinger, of course, received his powers when he was bitten by a radioactive penguin.
Or pecked.
Or pecked by a radioactive penguin.
When Colin tried to pet one of the penguins at the zoo, he leaned in.
At the zoo right next to the nuclear power plant.
Indeed, yes.
So this has given him a number of powers. He always wears a tuxedo now, which has led to him becoming the world's greatest super spy. But more sort of applicable to this situation is the fact that he can now slide on his belly at supersonic speeds. So he's going to basically wait until the thugs in the alleyway have arranged themselves in a bowling pin shape, and then do as every Looney Tunes cartoon would suggest that he do, and slide down the alleyway and knock them all over in a single strike.
Excellent. Next question.
Anyone who knows me knows that I'm terrible at bowling. That would never work.
Number 2, for Team Dan. How would you manage to travel to space in whatever way possible?
Clearly the dragon would just strap all 14 jetpacks to himself and fly at like Mach 3 into space.
Yeah, you could break atmosphere with that. 14 jetpacks. And dragons can hold their breath for 3,000 years or something. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And they have
fine.
2 sets of eyelids. They close one over so they don't need to worry about pressure making their eyes blow up.
Got that
all
hard
scientifically
skeleton, the exterior scales. He's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, Team Colin, same question.
All right, so obviously one of his 7 really cool cars is actually space travel worthy. So everything just kind of seals up. The little rockets come out of the back and zoom, blast off.
He designed it himself with his art.
Oh, right.
Gotcha.
Okay, next question. Number 3, for Team Dan. How would you defeat a 50-foot Hulk Hogan in an oversized WWE ring?
Yes.
Well, I hate to harp on the jetpacks again. But here we go. So, as you know, dragons are the king of all beasts. So clearly, this dragon would just use the 14 jetpacks to arm all of the animals in the forest surrounding this cabin. So you have bear with jetpack, elk, deer, anything else, and he would have skunks. Oh yeah, he'd command an army of animals wearing jetpacks to take down Hulk Hogan.
The other thing I was thinking we might do is he could pull out his bandsaw and use it to slice off Hulk Hogan's giant bandana that is covering his receding hairline. What's that? No. So he's going to slice off the giant bandana that's covering his receding hairline, and once Hulk Hogan's receding hairline is exposed to the world, he's just going to crumble up in a ball, his confidence gone.
It was recently revealed in the Hulk Hogan versus Gawker trial that the Hulk Hogan character has a 10-inch penis. But Terry Bollea himself does not. And
did they reveal the specific blank in that sentence? But Terry Bollea has a blank inch penis.
They did not reveal that, but that's actually true, and he was under oath when he said it.
Wow.
Okay. Well, yeah. I think that this Hulk Hogan does actually have a 10-inch penis, but given that he is 50 feet tall, that's a lot less impressive.
All right, Team Colin, same question.
So Coldfinger, of course, is the world's greatest super spy. And as any self-respecting spy has, he has a ton of gadgets, which are objects that they look like one object, but they behave like another object. And one of his gadgets is, of course, a blender that is secretly a folding chair. So when Hulk Hogan goes in for a hit, he's going to pull out that blender and then smack him over the head with it. And Hulk will go down like any self-respecting wrestler would when hit with a folding chair.
Oh, man.
Nice.
Oh.
Question
Sorry,
number
I think
4.
an army of jetpack wearing bears beats a chair. I'm just going to say it.
Would you rather fight 50 duck-sized Hulk Hogans or one Hulk Hogan-sized duck?
Oh god, oh no.
All right, number 4.
Duck-sized Hulk Hogans are terrifying. Oh my god.
Quack, brother.
Ah.
Number 4 for Team Dan. How would you melt Mr. Freeze?
Fire breath, right?
Yeah,
Is that what we're going with?
Like, not to go back to the jetpacks again.
We can fucking fly jetpacks around him and melt him.
My thought is that
That's what I do.
Coldfinger would present himself as an artist to Mr. Freeze and ask it and offer to create a flattering portrait of him. The portrait in question would, of course, be Mr. Freeze lying face down naked on a bearskin rug in front of a fireplace. But Mr. Freeze, once tricked out of his containment suit and put next to a giant source of heat, such as a fire, would quickly be incapacitated.
Number 5. How would you hang out with Nicolas Cage? What would you two do for fun?
I would use my potato masher to make him some awesome mashed potatoes.
And
As everyone knows,
use-
Dan is a connoisseur of fine mashed potatoes.
Yes.
I would only make the best for Nicolas Cage.
And you could use his acting skills to run scenes. Talk
Oh yeah,
shop.
help him practice lines.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
would be the first time that Nicolas Cage has ever practiced his lines before filming them in a movie.
You'd be responsible for turning his career around.
Because as we know, Tim, I think you have another title for the Dragon Lord Dan Hammett.
Oh yes, the Thespa Dragon.
All right, Team Colin.
As we all know, as all us Cage lovers know, Mr. Cage is very into disgusting shows of wealth that he must own. So I think the Coldfinger is gonna first of all lure him in with his really cool cars. You know, the ones that aren't the rocket, because that's for special times. So the other 6, maybe they'll go on some fun little Tokyo Drift style adventures together.
Yeah, they'll do a Gone in 60 Seconds with those 7 cars.
Yeah.
Oh, you bastards.
Maybe go castle shopping.
Real quick, am I still a penguin during all of this?
No, you were just bitten by a penguin and
Oh,
granted,
just bitten by, so I have penguin
and
powers.
granted
Okay,
the
sorry.
proportionate belly sliding and tuxedo wearing skills of a penguin.
And waddling speed.
Yeah.
That is the end of the lightning round.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the winner for weirdest.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is probably. I mean, it was our goal for this to be the weirdest episode of Smash Fiction in history. We have succeeded in that to
Yeah,
degrees
we hit
that
that peak pretty early.
to degrees that I could never have anticipated. But you know what? That's what happens here on this show. We exceed our own expectations. We reach our own peak, and then we climb a little higher, guys. That's what we do. So
Right.
we got to figure out who's going to reach the peak of this mountain after you kill your brother and presumably use his corpse as some sort of snowboard to escape the avalanche after he is frozen from being used first as a digging tool. So Liz and I are going to briefly confer. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
For my stinger, I really wanted to just burp, but I can't do that on cue.
Oh, would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Yes, for people who don't know, I do that a fair amount of the time. When
It does show in some of the episodes, unless
Oh, does
Miles
it?
edits them out.
I don't believe that has ever made it to the final cut. No.
I think it was in at least one blooper reel sort of thing at the end.
Well,
That's fair.
it certainly
Yeah,
happened during recording sessions before.
I do often open up a Skype call with belching into the microphone. So-
That's right.
You got to set your level somehow.
right. Oh, this was super fun, guys. I had a lot of fun writing our opening arguments.
Oh man, this
The
is
brainstorming session I had with Tim was great. So
I kept forgetting who I was advocating for.
Yeah.
This is really confusing.
Hey, Colin,
yeah.
I love you. You're great.
Oh, I love you too, Danny. Thank you. That's sweet.
I had a really strong urge to just say April Fool's right there, but I'm not going to do that.
Oh,
That's not where I'm going with that.
You just crushed my soul a little
I
bit.
said I had an urge
He
to. I
didn't
didn't
say
actually. I mean, I did, but only to communicate that I wasn't saying it.
Yeah.
It was still in your head, though. You put it out there, Dan.
Hey guys.
Hi. Oh, we have reached a verdict.
It was tough.
It was tough.
So tough.
Yeah.
And hard.
Incredibly tough, like Rhino
I feel like no matter who wins,
Like that tool.
they're also going to be a loser in a different way.
That's,
Like-
and vice versa.
So, Liz, do you want to announce it or should I?
Why don't we do it at the same time? We have decided that the winner is team
Team
3, 2, 1. Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take that, Colin, you loser.
Congratulations,
Oh man,
Team Dan.
I'm a loser.
Colin, dude, I mean, it was a persuasive argument, buddy. I'm not
I
in the
spoke
spirit
from
of
the
Smash
heart.
Fiction. In the spirit of Smash
I
Fiction,
lit a candle.
I'm not going from any of my own knowledge with this. All I can, because I don't have that experience of you, but all I can go with is the arguments as they were presented, and I believe Liz was swayed by the jetpacks.
I
sounds
like
like
the
Liz.
jetpacks.
That was the wiser decision to make when it came to the shiny objects, for sure.
Well, thank you for listening to this bonus episode of Smash Fiction. We will be back this Sunday with our regularly scheduled programming. Until then,
Thank God.
happy April Fool's Day, ladies and gentlemen.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo design by Colin Mulkerin.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.